Is the UN-imposed fly zone and the military attacks upon Libya a violation of a sovereign nation's authority? Libya's foreign minister is protesting loudly that it is. Does national sovereignty even exist anymore? Maybe we're already in global government now. What do you think? It's time for another provocative edition of Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it. I'll never forget my first visit to the United Nations building in New York. We were on our way to Israel, but we had to fly out of New York. So we took advantage of that particular fact and decided the trip would actually begin at the United Nations, since it is the headquarters for one world government. Well, as we made our tour, we had arranged for a special briefing from one of the officials of the United Nations, and he was gracious enough to consent to actually conduct the briefing for our group. We had about 48 people or so, and after we had toured the entire UN building and seen all the explanations, we then sat down in sort of a theater-type setting, and the person doing the briefing opened up by saying this: the United Nations is not a world government. Nothing like that. We are involved in global governance. And when he said that, I thought, wait a minute. I had known enough about global governance that I actually looked it up to see what it meant. Well, I raised my hand and I asked the lecturer, could you please explain the difference between global governance and global government? And I thought maybe he had an explanation, because he had made such a point out of stating that world government was not the same as global governance, that I thought maybe he had an explanation. Well, he stepped back and swallowed 2 or 3 times and said, that may not be easy. Well, he had just said that it wasn't a world government, but yet it was global governance. And I had looked up previously the word governance in the dictionary, and it has a one-word definition: government. So global governance is global government, according to the dictionary. But this man was trying to make us believe there was a difference. So my question to all of you listening today is, are we in world government right now? And if so, how deep are we into world government? And is it too late for us to get out? If we are not too late to get out, then how do we actually get out? These are all questions that must be asked. And a lot of this is being triggered by an article that appeared over the weekend. Libya slams Germany for violating its sovereignty. Libya last Tuesday described the visit of Germany's foreign minister to Benghazi, that's part of Libya, as a violation of Tripoli's sovereignty that did not help efforts to resolve the conflict. So the foreign minister of Germany had visited Benghazi, which is under the control of the rebels, and the rebels are trying to overthrow the long-standing government of Libya. So Libya says, wait a minute, what are you doing? You're here siding with militant rebels that are trying to overthrow our government. I mean, let's say we had some right-wing fundamentalists that were trying to overthrow the government of the United States of America. And some people from China or Russia came in. The foreign minister of China came in and visited the militants trying to overthrow the government in Washington, D.C. How would that look to Washington, D.C.? Well, I don't think we have to wait for an answer. We know exactly what the answer would be. And yet that's exactly what occurred last week in Libya. So is the invasion of Libya, is the revolution taking place in Libya a violation of national sovereignty? Let me just read a couple of short paragraphs here so you can get the tenor of what's being said. Libya's foreign minister said Monday's visit by German foreign minister Guido Westerwelle to Benghazi was a violation of Tripoli's sovereignty. In a statement, the ministry condemned the trip as irresponsible and said it does not help efforts by regional and international organizations to find a peaceful solution to what is happening in Libya. The visit, it added, was a flagrant violation of national sovereignty as interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign nation and member of the United Nations, and is contrary to international norms and convictions, or at least it used to be contrary. A lot of things are really happening different right now. Okay, so here's my question to you. Are we in world government? When Obama wanted to launch the campaign against Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, where does he go? He goes to our Congress, of course, to get an official declaration of war. That's the way the Constitution says it should be done. So he goes to Congress to get a declaration of war. Or did he? Well, actually, no. He didn't go to Congress. But where did he go? To the United Nations. He went to the UN Security Council and got permission from them to establish a no-fly zone over Libya. This doesn't make any sense. The only way it makes any sense is if we're actually in world government right now. I mean, you don't go to Congress, and yet you do go to the global governmental structure for approval. And as a result of that approval, you begin to violate the Constitution of the United States by going to war against Libya, when the only way you're supposed to go to war is to get a resolution, a law passed, a declaration of war passed by our Congress. Okay, you say, I don't want to hear this. This is old news. Oh, now, wait a minute. We don't want to hear this? We don't care that our elected officials can run right over the top of our Constitution? Now, I'm not indicting Obama alone. George W. Bush did it before him. Bill Clinton did it before him. They've been operating this way for a long time because everybody has let them do it. I wonder what would happen if we would impeach every president that goes into military action without a declaration of war by the Congress. I wonder what would happen. I know what would happen. It would stop. We'd impeach one president, and then Congress would have its power back, and the Constitution would be restored. It would stop. But there's too many people in Congress that also believe in world government, and therefore we've slid down the slippery slope toward world government. Now, I do want your feedback today. I want to hear from you. Does it feel like we're in world government right now? Do you have evidence that we're in world government? Or do you have evidence that we are not in world government? Either way, I'd like to hear what you have to say. I know I'm very bothered by some things. I'll never forget back in, 1997, when President Clinton stepped to the podium at the United Nations and there called for the establishment of an international criminal court. All right, now why do we need an international court? We have county courts, we have state courts, we have federal courts, we have the U.S. Supreme Court. Why do we need an international court? Are you establishing a level of jurisprudence above the courts of the United States of America? Are you envisioning that someday there will be a world Supreme Court that can overturn the rulings of the U.S. Supreme Court? Are you envisioning a time when the U.S. is no longer sovereign and that the world community can overrule the United States of America? Ladies and gentlemen, hear me carefully. The people that are doing these things envision exactly that. What they believe is, they believe that nations cause wars because nations end up in conflict, and sometimes those conflicts become so heated that they escalate into war, and thus we have war on the face of the earth. So their theory is we should back down from that world structure and we should dissolve the borders of nations. You've probably seen a few books written, such as World Without Borders, one idealistic vision of a world with no borders. So they envision the time when we would have no borders, no nations. We would have a single global authority to which we would all answer. And thus we would have one army, of course. And with one army can't fight with itself. All other armies would be outlawed. The right to keep and bear arms would be set aside, which they desperately want to do, but they have not got that done yet in the United States of America. But disarmament is one of the big departments of the United Nations. So what they want to do is get rid of all the nations, and then we would only have one army. Would it work? No. The result wouldn't be what was intended. The result would be the total enslavement of every person on the earth, because when you get one power-hungry, scrupulous dictator at the head of this one world army, you have no checks and balances to stop him, and thus he can subjugate the whole world to his will and his designs. You say, oh, come on, give me a break. It's not going to happen. Yes, it is. Your Bible specifically prophesies a one world government that will subjugate all peoples. And when Libya protests because its sovereignty has been violated, not just by Germany, but also by Great Britain, also by the United States of America. Our planes have bombed there. Our planes have attempted to assassinate Muammar Gaddafi. We missed. But we did get, one or two of his sons, a couple of his grandchildren. We just went in and killed them. We murdered them in cold blood. I know you don't want to hear this, and I don't want to say it. But somehow we've got to say this is what is going on. This is global governance in action. This is world government. And furthermore, I'm going to make a very bold assertion. This is the world government prophesied in your Bible. Go to Revelation chapter 13. It talks in verse 7 and 8 about a power that will obtain rule over all the earth. It is a one world government prophecy. It's found other places in the Bible as well. And it's what we are seeing set up right now. Please don't go to sleep at the wheel, because that's what's happening right now. I've got more to say about this, and I'm going to take your calls in the next segment.
Endtime Ministries presents End of the Age, a 30-minute commercial-free TV show hosted by Irvin Baxter. Every Monday, End of the Age airs on the Church Channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. On End of the Age, Irvin depicts how modern issues like an establishment of a one-world government, the religion of Islam, a coming World War III, and more line up so clearly with Bible prophecies written over 2,000 years ago. To get tomorrow's news today, be sure to tune into End of the Age every Monday on the Church Channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. Visit endtime.com for more details or call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
The Bible prophesies about 4 great spirits which can